At SalesDouble.com, we work hard to be your sales double, and we do all the tedious, mundane work like list database creation and management, and making those outbound sales calls to get you appointments and handle all your marketing needs so that we can both create immediate needs who want to talk to you now and also nurture the future prospects who aren't ready yet, and we nurture them forever until they are ready to talk to you. You just quote and close, and we'll do all the rest. And I was talking just a minute ago about the flawed concept of going for in-person appointments only, and that there are 4 specific steps to really take marketing from a dismal return at best to a 5-to-1, 10-to-1 or more return on investment. I want to get in depth on this, so we'll break the 4 steps down into 4 videos, and this is about step number 1, which centers around the first of 4 P's, the word prospects. The first thing needed to begin your marketing program is the right target group of prospects. We have clients who actually send us their own lists that have competitors on them and elementary schools and things that are a total waste to call. Well, this is a numbers game, and we use those numbers to your advantage to achieve the highest return on investment possible. So your list has got to be clean. If your target list of prospects is, say, 2,000 names total, you can expect the first pass of calling through that list to weed out about 10% as bad numbers. And since we handle all the database management and clean up that list, the next pass through is more efficient as we've moved through those bad names and gone past them. But imagine a list that doesn't take into account other important variables of revenue range, geography, employee count, SIC code, or even the finite details like credit rating or male versus female ownership. If 50% of your list is the wrong target, then of course you're throwing away 50 cents of every dollar. Let's start with revenue ranges. Now, if you're a client of ours, then the list is included in your program. But if you're doing this on your own and purchasing a list from ZapData or InfoUSA, which is Sales Genie, then please understand that the current revenue ranges are not accurate for today's economy. You'll see the list providers claim to be calling businesses annually and updating that data, but ask around. Try and find anyone who's been audited by these list providers. Our company has been called once in 10 years, and what they asked was if the owner was still the same, and then they hung up. So a company currently listed as having $1 million in revenues was probably a few years ago, and they might only be doing $500,000 today if they're still in business. So rule number 1, bump the revenues up a full bracket. Now let's take a look at geography. Guaranteed you have a competitor who's mailing to the same list or even telemarketing, and over 90% of the time people pick specific SIC codes or even a county as their geographic selection to call. Well, rule number 2, forget what the list providers are trying to pigeonhole you into, and rather than choosing their blanket general options, look at your specific geography as if you were going to personally walk and canvass your area. You surely would avoid less affluent areas, and you'd focus on areas of heavy concentration of your ideal target. So if you pick Jackson County because that's the blanket option, and just 1 mile outside of Jackson County is a concentration of your perfect prospects, well, that needs to be added and placed at the top of your list. So you can pull names using a radius of your office, plus zip codes, plus you can even draw a square box around a certain area of town. Remember, it's a numbers game, and you need all the numbers to be in your favor. Now, what about employee count? Is it important? Well, the answer is yes, and too many times we see people select revenues that don't match the employee count, and therefore they lose what may be hot prospects. Let me give you an example. We often have business brokers who put a minimum revenue of $1 million for the business's sales, but then turn around and place a minimum employee count of 5, so they weed out small mom and pops. Well, the problem here is that while a retail store may have 5 employees to hit $1 million, a wholesale distributor can hit that with just 1 employee. Well, both are good candidates for the business broker to sell, Yet if he uses the set criteria of 1 million and 5 employees, the wholesale distributor wouldn't have even made the list, and a possible great sale is lost. If you're our client, we handle that for you. However, if you're doing this on your own, rule number 3, match the revenues to the employee count for the industry you're calling. Now, speaking of the industry to call, it's humorous that list providers still generate lists based on SIC codes, or standard industrial classifications, while the rest of the world focuses on the government NAICS codes, or North American Industry Classification System numbers. Well, if you're buying from the main list providers, then you'll be pulling probably from SIC codes, and they at least make it easy by allowing you to do a keyword search. But possibly the single most important element is rule number 4, call the right types of companies. Now, this seems easy on the surface, but remember, we're playing a numbers game here, and more specifically, the number of contacts you're able to make with a decision maker. So you say, I can sell my product to almost anybody, which gives me a broad target market. Well, that's the worst thing you can do. Specific niche marketing still rules today, and nothing beats it. Now, these are generalities, however, I'll use them to make my point. And I mean no offense to anyone, but when we call the construction trade, they're easy to get through to. The decision maker's there, but they're not very accountable when it comes to follow-up and in being there at the appointment. And the economy's not great for them right now. Last-minute emergencies, they take them away at a moment's notice, and lack of, let's say, top-notch time management systems only exasperate the problem. Now, restaurants may be your cup of tea, but difficult to find the decision maker, difficult to get them to the phone, and you'll probably be waiting forever at the actual appointment and have a half-dozen interruptions. Doctors and attorneys are great, as they still have money in this crazy economy. However, you have a very difficult time getting past the gatekeeper and through to the decision maker. It doesn't mean you omit these from your target list, but it does mean you factor them into the overall percentages and make sure you're putting the numbers in your favor. So our first P, prospects, includes creating a perfect target list and then maintaining that database continually so it's as clean as possible. And that puts the numbers in your favor. On the next video, we'll cover our next P, which includes specific verbiage and techniques that penetrate right to the brain of the prospects. See you on the next video.